Good afternoon, everybody. Today is June 25th. It is 6 p.m. This is the Lunenburg Water District Commissioners meeting. Let's start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We're gonna review and sign warrants, which I believe has been passed around, and we're looking good on those. There's some meeting minutes floating around with Mr. Esposito right now. And while they look at that, we can go on to number 3, which is review and approve the quotes for the water main tie-in at Rolling Acres. So,
Okay. Did you make a copy?
yep, get right here, Fran.
All right, so they're all within a couple
Yeah.
$100
Yep.
of each other. So the cheapest was HR Prescott.
Yep.
So I just want you guys to approve the purchase those.
That's this.
It's just to cut in the T and get the water main off the Lancaster Ave onto Rolling Acres.
We gonna be able to cut the T in ourselves?
Yes. Yep.
I mean, we got
I'm
the,
waiting to get approval to actually dig in the stream, so I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Cutting the T on Lancaster Ave for a new service line?
Yes, so we're gonna leave the existing line
In place.
in place.
We're
We're
gonna
gonna
cut
cut
a
a
new
new T right next to it and run a new line. So the goal is to leave the old main active
Yeah.
while we run.
so we're going all the way across the street then?
No, it's right on the.
It's right on the edge.
Yeah,
Well, no, but I mean, it's on the right-hand side, the southern side, going towards Keating's?
No,
Also
it's
Rolling
on- No,
Acres?
Lancaster Ave. It's on, if you go north,
That's
it's
we're
on.
talking about Rolling Acres.
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
On Lancaster Ave, it's on the short side, so all we're gonna do is cut in Rolling
All right,
Acres.
so the
and just
main's
run-
on the left-hand side.
Yes, going down the road.
Okay, all right, I was under the impression it was on the other side, that's why I was wondering.
You weren't right.
No, no, never right there.
As far as these 3 quotes, I mean, they are within dollars of each other. I would say you could use whoever you felt could give you the best customer service.
Yeah, and that's kind of part of the HR Prescott, they have the cloud, the brand stuff that we
Yeah,
use.
yeah, that's,
So, they're all good,
Yeah.
good stuff also.
This is just the parts.
Yes. No labor, no equipment.
Wow.
But this is expensive, so we're
I
not
thought
doing it,
this was pretty good for the
Well,
first
we're
time. I
not-
was like, yeah.
we're not doing it the easy way. The easy way is just do a tap and seal valve.
No, you gotta,
But my thinking is we cut in 12-inch line, T, and reduce it back 8, because it's 8-inch main on the street. So I wanna cut a 12-inch T in, and then go 8-inch up Rolling Acres, with the purpose of doing the 12-inch, because at some point, that main on Lancaster's gonna be 12.
Mhm.
So if we cut in a tap and sleeve, then when that main's done, which is, I think it's gonna be fairly soon, then now everything has to be shut off and redone.
Right.
So if we do it this way, everything can stay live, they
Yep.
can do a main and leave Rolling Acres on, then cut in a valve they'll do a valve on the other side. So also I'm only putting one valve in, because when you do a new water main job, you also have to pressure test it.
Yep.
So they never want to test against an old valve. Doesn't matter if the valve's 2 years old, 3 years old, whatever it is.
Yep.
They don't want to test against, so they're gonna put another one.
Okay.
So it's kind of a waste to put one in.
I got you.
But I want to do one in, just only on one side, so
Yep.
we can isolate.
Yep.
That's what a 12-inch gate valve is now, epoxy coated.
Since COVID, everything went, I
Man.
would say tripled in price. I mean, fire hydrants used to be 1,900, now they're 3,500. Just for the hydrant.
I'd like to buy one for 3,500. Those ones I bought over to 7-Eleven, $5,000 a piece.
Should came talk.
What's that mean? I mean, I got screwed on that,
maybe.
or I bought them at the wrong place.
Yeah.
You probably bought it at the wrong place.
Yeah.
Well, I should tell you where I bought them, so we don't go there, but I won't.
Okay, do we need to vote on this?
I would say about that.
So, Ken,
388.
388.
Who do you recommend?
HR Prescott.
Okay.
Give them a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, we've dealt with it before.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Yeah, so
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we allocate $10,388.36 for the purchase of materials to put in a new tee for for feeding of rolling acres.
So moved. Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do we have to appropriate from somewhere? Or
It's
just vote to
already-
do it?
Well, we had that.
It's already-
It's already
out of the-
already
okay.
in the budget.
All right.
Yep,
Yep, the equipment.
yep.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, so the next purchase will be much larger. That'll be the actual water main.
No, I understand, I get it, but I thought, yes, I like this idea, get it off the road.
Yeah, so you got, as soon as you hit the 50,000, now we have to go to official bid.
Right.
So thinking maybe I do a hydrant quote, you know?
Yeah.
So
It's gonna be a 12-inch.
8. It's 12 inch, I just on Lancaster Ave.
Yeah, that's
And
a-
we're gonna cut it to 8.
8-inch, okay. I was gonna say, why are we, okay.
While we're moving, I would move to be approved the minutes of June 11th, 2025.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Okay.
All right. And next thing we have is review the public engagement question regarding future treatment options. So, you all have copies of this. This is, on our last meeting, we had the rough draft of what we kind of wanted to put out to the community to maybe try to get a heartbeat of where we're at with water availability, quality. There's a whole questionnaire here I thought was pretty good. And just, like I said, the purpose of this is just to see where our community's at and where we should be acting, not only with PFAS, but possibly other things too. This went out to Nicole, and this also went out to some of the residents of Lunenburg for input. We received it back with input from everybody. This is you might say the copy with all the input on it. And let's talk about it. Sure, yeah.
So I really haven't really seen this whole lot, so this is good to go through it all.
That's what I thought,
With
go
all
from the
my,
beginning to the,
Yeah.
do you want me to kind of go through like some of the comments and stuff that were?
Yeah,
like
I mean,
Nicole and
like I read through this quite a bit today. And
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I got the right page now.
So yeah, Chris, if you want to maybe point out some of the highlights.
Just a couple of I mean, everything at the beginning was good, they made a couple suggestions that were put in red. Are you currently a district customer, a private well owner, or just a user of the Lunenburg water? So that's fine.
Yeah, I
You
like
know.
that one, yeah.
Leaving that on there, that was fine. The next part they talked about in red was with standard water rates. Nicole and I talked about that, and there is no standard to water rates. They're always changing. So to say standard, to whose standards, to what standards? So we cross that out, that just
That
doesn't make
belong
sense. The next part under taste, thinking of the past year, well, we're not really
Yeah.
just talking about the past year, we're talking about the water
Right.
system in a whole, so we crossed that off. And then she really didn't like the idea of a point scale, that's not really what we're how she was designing this survey.
Correct.
It's, kind of a more very pleasant, neutral, to each one. The idea of this survey, she didn't like the rating scale to it. So kind of going through that, that's what's crossed off. Under most of it was just thinking of the past year. We don't wanna do that, the
Yeah,
rating scales.
I saw when I was reading through that too, I didn't really, I didn't understand why that was put in there, but I didn't like it either because I don't want anybody to start, overthinking. Nothing's really changed dramatically with the water system in the past year.
Yeah,
Like the
Yeah.
goal of this survey, like I said, was to try to grab a heartbeat of our community, how they feel on these issues. So it's not meant to be leading one way or another. We're just trying to collect data from our users.
the bottom part under hardness, you can't really question people on what they're willing to pay when they aren't really educated on costs of what it's going to be to
Mhm.
remove it. But on top of that, she also said that she really doesn't like adding that paragraph above it. The hardness is considered a cosmetic water issue and not a health concern, because there is conflicting studies. There is the conflicting studies about respiratory issues, kidney stones, digestive issues. Not that they're all proven, but she didn't want us to put that out to the public stating that it's proven there's no health concerns when there are conflicting studies. So she didn't agree with that paragraph at all. Just sticking with the facts. It's not opinion, it's facts. This is what our system has, 100 to 120 when it's combined. Oh, she was supposed to get that to me. They wanted to see the pop-up. I apologize. She was working on it.
So,
It
It was
dropped
just
the
a,
pop-up.
it was just a simple pop-up about softeners, it
Yeah.
wasn't anything, I meant to get that from her.
Yeah, it was meant to tell people that they cannot use a water softener out of your septic system or
Oh.
discharge it into your sewer.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you printed that one off that you had about the softeners.
So we can drop that.
Yeah,
I mean,
talking about the water district, the current water supply meets the requirement for redundancy, and then a question about how much are they willing to pay for redundancy. But the thing is that we're not talking about current, we're trying to get a gauge on future, what people are looking for. And future-wise, we're gonna have to treat all of our water sources to get the redundancy, so this isn't really, the redundancy is talking about our future. How are we treating the water to get enough redundancy?
for the future, yeah.
So that was crossed. The cost, we took that whole thing out because
where are
the cost section at the
Yeah.
top
Next
of
page.
the
Next
fourth
page.
page,
Cost, like,
they added a whole section, oh, do you have the new one? Yeah, they put, yeah.
Yeah.
She didn't want that up before the PFAS, because we're addressing the whole cost question at the end of the survey. The whole idea was to educate about PFAS with this section on here, with the examples of everything, and then on the very last page is the scenarios with the cost, not there. She didn't like that whole section there, because you're asking people about money before you're actually educating them about PFAS. Then they questioned about the rolling average. So when we went back at the very bottom of the fourth page, the blue box under the Keating's well, we had 5 and 5 originally listed. So I went back through what we've done for testing, and our lowest in 2023 was 3.85, and our highest for 2025 was 9.35.
Mhm.
So we don't have a rolling average for the year, please correct me if I'm wrong.
So there is, the EPA one was if you're 4 or under, the average was 0.
Correct.
So when I spoke to Mass DEP, the testing is much more accurate now.
Mhm.
And DEP told me that if it's less than 2, it'll be 0. So if it's above 2, it's the number they gave.
Okay.
So, and I kinda think this is heading to where this will be when the state comes up with their regulation.
Sure, but on this graph here, it's its range of detection. In the
Yeah.
range that we have, where I would interpret is the readings that we've gotten are as low as 3.85 and as high as 9.35.
Yes.
Correct.
That is correct.
Yes.
That is correct,
Okay.
100% correct information.
I mean, that to me is, I kinda like that in here, just range of detection.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
the
because it
lowest
wouldn't be
was-
accurate if you had 0. If you put a
Right.
0 in there, because it's very close to 4.
I understand how the state is averaging that, and that's how they're doing it, and that's how we'll abide by that, but this is just showing. what
This is a
we-
real number.
This is
It's
a real
not
number
a-
where it's been,
Yeah.
the test has come out that well, I like that in there.
Yep.
Okay. So I changed that. So under the next part, residents are not gonna determine it. Nicole was thinking she wanted to incorporate something in there about that Mass DEP is gonna have to adopt the EPA standards of minimum 4 parts per trillion soon. So educating a little bit on that, a little paragraph there, then
So
keeping that.
just so we're clear, it is 4 parts per trillion.
Yes,
So
I'm
if we put a
sorry.
new well site online and it was higher than 4 parts per trillion, you're not putting it online. So that there is a regulation that is the maximum amount. Mass DP needs to make it 4 or more
Right.
stringent. So, but 4 is the actual regulation. We cannot have 4. So right now, any well, or whatever we're using, is on that delayed time.
Understood.
Yeah.
So
So she-
I
she
hear
wants
people
to
make
kinda-
comments that it's 20 parts per trillion, which is 100% not true.
Yeah.
So I just wanna make that clear.
So maybe that's where we work with her on a clear paragraph about what exactly,
Are you talking about this right here, like this,
yeah, it says residents are not gonna determine the level of PFAS since it's determined by the state. If you're looking to determine the residents' level of knowledge, suggest asking the following question, which we agree.
Yeah,
We like,
yeah.
we
I don't
have a
like the
problem with that.
question, but she was thinking maybe, somewhere in here, we needed to add that little paragraph about, you know, the state's, that the level is 4 parts per trillion, like adding those numbers in here somewhere, cause I don't,
are you talking about before this question, do you have knowledge of the
Some-
understanding of
somewhere.
PFAS?
even that, are you aware of PFAS? Then maybe underneath that question, you know,
Some
for-
sort of, yeah.
yeah, you know, just
Like I
a-
said, there, another, just the facet of this thing, once again, is supposed to be, or I'm hoping to make this, I guess, as simple as possible, so people actually fill it out.
Yeah.
If you get this big, long survey, I'm gonna be like, dude, I'm not filling this thing out, you know, so while I want us to try to grab as much accurate information from the community as we can, at the same time, we do have to be a little cognizant on, don't wanna overload
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough balance.
And maybe that's where, I mean, I guess we kinda have that in there in April in the paragraph before, under PFAS. In
Mhm.
April 2024, the US EPA set the first
Right.
national limits of 4 parts per trillion, so maybe we don't need it, cause that kind
Right.
of 10 parts per the 3 other PFAS. So, I mean, it kinda does explain it there with the numbers, maybe we just need to emphasize that there is no more 20, it's 4.
Sure.
So we so I guess that kinda covers it, but I do like this question that they added, do you have knowledge or understanding?
Right.
And then how concerned about it are you?
Mm-hmm.
And then down to the options, you know, this one I'll kinda let Fran cover, it was more about just adding a whole nother scenario, which,
Yeah, so, I mean, let's just talk about this, Fran, a little bit. So, they're one of when I say they, this is the comments that are represented from the Lunenburg Citizens for Affordable Clean Water. That's when I say they, I'm sorry on some of this.
Who is she?
Bobby Turkington.
This is all from the.
No, the red
Oh,
is
the
from her.
red was from Bobby Turner.
The red is
correct,
from
yes,
her,
okay.
the green is from the Affordable
green-
Clean
yeah,
Water.
alright. So the scenario 4 needs to be included as an option. Pump Lancaster water to Keatings. Treat both wells for PFAS at Keatings. The benefit is that Lancaster water will dilute the hardness of Keatings well. We're researching this option before presenting the survey to the residences, so they receive a clean and accurate and transparent picture of the actual options available. I know we have talked ad nauseum about running Lancaster out to Keatings, in how it's not really feasible to do. Could you add some insight to that?
Well, mostly because the water quality are 2 different issues taking place.
Okay.
So that's why we're doing Hickory and Lancaster.
Understood.
So the way to me, the way you need to look at this is, under the current situation, do we have a hardness problem? Do you guys feel we have a hardness
I
problem?
mean, we're creeping on it, but no.
I mean, cause you complain when that, you know, cause the staining, plugging up fixtures and stuff like that. So, so if whatever we do for treating Lancaster and Keene together, we didn't solve any problems. And actually, when you ran for election, the guy that ran against you, at the annual meeting, he made a big comment that, you know, what are we gonna do about the hardness, we need to address it. And that's when he put the big word out to everybody in this whole area, we had hundreds of calls on it, so I mean, this is.
Interesting, Fran. I guess My question is that.
But that's what he's answering, is this doesn't solve the hardness issue.
That's where I'm going.
It doesn't
So
solve it.
that, you're saying that by combining the Lancaster with Keating still isn't solving the
No.
hardness
That's
problem?
correct, it's
Yeah.
exactly as it is now. So currently, the Keatings and Lancaster provide half of the water.
Correct.
So the hardness is diluted, so it's not 220, so if we ran Keatings by itself, the level is 220,
Right.
and now it's 120, last time we checked last week it was 120, so, so it gets diluted. So by just treating it at Keatings, which I don't like the idea, I mean, if we did do something like this, I would treat Keatings at Lancaster Ave, you know, and that way we could possibly take care of future wells at Lake Shirley. If we found another well in Lake Shirley, we could use the treatment plant on Lancaster Ave to treat that if something ever came, something like that. So I wouldn't, to me, I think the worst place to build it would be at Keatings. If you
Okay.
did say, hey, this is how we wanna do it, I still don't agree it's the way to do it. But if you did do it, I would build it at Lancaster Ave.
But it's also the other thing, like we were talking about, that we've spent 2, 3, I think we allocated the Hickory Hills funds 3 years ago. So we've spent probably $750,000, almost $750,000 on doing pilot studies, engineering, surveying, professionals, all of this, to come up with what I think you guys all felt was very good options. So I think it was Ty and Bond's impression that historically, if they've tried to mix 2 different water quality plants to do a treatment, DEP was going to require
That
another
is-
pilot study.
No, yes.
I spoke to them.
So,
Okay.
you know, we're looking at another $250,000, $500,000 for another pilot study, another year.
So maybe,
So-
maybe this question should be, because this is really not an option right now, because it hasn't been studied. So I appreciate Fran's opinion, I appreciate what everybody's thinking, I think a lot of the same things, we've
Yeah.
had the discussions with the engineers. But it's not even a scenario that we could present. We could maybe present if somebody wanted to have another pilot study, then we could look at this scenario.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, we've discussed it with the engineers, we don't think it's a viable option. But maybe the public wants to spend more money on another pilot study.
So I guess the hard part is what Nicole and I were talking about this, is that this is supposed to just be a very broad survey. This is not supposed to be swaying the public in
But-
any way. So giving them, I mean, maybe,
We gotta let them know that this is not a scenario.
yes,
This is
so-
not a scenario until it's studied. So somewhere it's gotta say, are you willing to vote the $250,000 or $300,000 to do a pilot study to look at another scenario?
Yeah. I mean, but the public also needs to realize that $700,000 has already been spent, so, you know what I mean? This isn't like a little thing, so where does the funds come from?
So I kind of agree with Mr. Burge that maybe we put it there in a question.
What
form.
about, you know, on the last page, you know, they put under that, check one box, scenario 1, 2, 3, or research, investigate additional options and scenarios. You know, so not putting in a whole section of, you know, there was the whole thing of, you know, saying that the water district has not yet investigated all possible options.
Yeah, that's not staying.
So, something like, I mean, not that whole additional scenario thing, but under the question, you know, check one box,
Right.
something, you
So-
know, do you, or would you rather research, investigate additional options and scenarios at a cost unknown? You know, we're giving the potential costs of scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3, do we add a scenario 4 of future pilot studies at unknown dollar amounts and let them choose that as a scenario 4?
You know, I've been,
I mean, basically, I don't know, I can kinda say as a board, I don't think we support scenario 4. I think if we, you know, with all of the research that we put into this, we don't feel that that is a viable option. So to say that we haven't investigated all the options,
Yeah.
yes, we've investigated, but we don't feel that's a viable option. Now we're throwing something into this that we feel as a board is not a viable option.
Yeah, it just
You
takes
know,
a step back.
I want to try to use the public input, and then I understand that the people that put this input in think that this is a viable option. But, you know, we've discussed it with the engineers and we feel it is not. So, again, it gets confusing.
You know, I haven't looked at this too much, except what we've just been going through. And,
I mean, I don't mind your question, but to say that we didn't investigate
No, that
is
whole
wrong.
thing, yeah, yes.
well, no, but
You know,
what,
if they say, do we want to spend more money to continue to try to look at other options? Yes.
Okay.
But we've already looked at them, and as a board, we decided it was not
Yeah.
worth the water district's funds to spend on
We
that
hired the
option.
engineering firm. I mean, we
What?
hired the experts.
Right,
and
they said that
This
right.
was not part of it.
I mean, would it warrant putting some sort of verbiage in there that the water department has spent, $750,000 on pilot studies, and we feel that these are the best scenarios available? However, we're open to others, but like, I don't know, like, I don't wanna create too much doubt in there, because it makes it sound like we haven't done anything with it, and we, like Mark said, we know that this is probably some of the best options. Is there more out there? There's infinite options out there, but, you know, like Chrissy said, like Nicole said, I'm not trying to lead anybody with this. I really just wanna grasp what the community feels. Some people may be like, I don't know what PFAS is, I don't know what this is, or they may be very educated on, they're like, you know, this is a problem, we need to fix it. Or, I don't care about PFAS, I know what it is, and I don't care, I don't know, that's what we're trying to find out.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like, I'm not trying to guide anybody here, I really just want a completely apolitical survey.
can I finish what I started?
You know,
Sure can, buddy.
You sure now?
I'm sorry, John.
Sure, both you sure? I haven't looked, except, you know, same amount of time you guys spent on this, looking down through this.
I spent a lot of time on it today, but.
Well, you're a special guy.
All right, well,
So you go down, you know, odor, all right? Pressure, hardness, redundancy, whatever else is on there, cost. Now we get to the real problem, the cost. As far as, you know, what are we gonna do? All right, well, we got a study that comes back, well, we got hardness. All right, another neighborhood comes back, we don't have any pressure. All right, what are we gonna do about it?
well, pressure's a tough one, there's really nothing we can do about it. 'Cause
What are
that's
we
one
gonna
of the
do
ones
about
like,
hardness? What
why
are we
don't
gonna do
pluck it out?
about odor?
well, those are,
The
those.
thing of it is, we're gonna have another pilot study, and we're gonna wind up right exactly where we are now. We're gonna spend another $250,000 on a pilot study. We ain't gonna know anything that we don't know sitting here right now. Not one thing. The odor's still gonna be there. The pressure's still gonna be there. The hardness is gonna be there. The redundancy's still gonna be there, and we're gonna cost us $250,000 for an engineer to tell us what we already got sitting here on the table right in front of us. What I think we gotta do is, tell you the truth, I don't know what the hell we gotta do. I mean, we gotta get this community together. The thing we should be talking about is, we all should agree that we need a treatment plan. We all should sit down and figure out where we're gonna put it, the cheapest way to build it, and the longer you wait, the more it's gonna cost. All we're doing is, like they said in Washington, we're just kicking the can down the road.
I
And the
know.
further you kick it, the more it costs.
But we need to have information from the public of their desires. We've tried to put a treatment plan in before, it didn't work, which means that we weren't either communicating well or
Okay,
communicating back and forth in
I
public.
think that's the goal of this,
We're
John.
just
is
trying to get a heartbeat of where we're at. I'm not trying to.
But I understand, I agree with you. We should know what everybody thinks.
Right, and this
But
is-
when everybody sends this thing back and tells us what they think,
Then we'll know.
Then we go,
what?
then we go for the
Then
funding,
we,
then
then
we
we go,
decide.
and then we, if this comes back and everyone says, I don't have a problem with hardness, then we can pull focus off of hardness. If
Well,
it comes,
this neighborhood might not have hardness,
But
but
it's another
this
one.
neighborhood might.
why, what are you talking about? It all comes from the same two tanks.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know if it, when it flows out of the wells, if it doesn't disperse, when it goes to
Well,
the
you know
tank,
what?
it's probably.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
how come some people in town have red iron in their, coming out of their faucet, you know, dripping down there in their toilet tank or on their kitchen sink, and other people in town don't, all drinking the same water?
I think this is a good medium just to try to pull information from.
I think you're on the right path. I mean, the whole focus is the PFAS. Who knows about it? What do you know?
Right.
And
And what are you
you
concerned?
support us treatment, you know?
Yeah.
When is this going out?
Not tomorrow.
Whenever we're, this
Whenever
is
we-
just the second draft.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm just asking, I mean, next week, next.
No, this was second draft, so
This is-
I figured we would talk and we'll make whatever changes we need to and it'll be on the next agenda.
Correct.
In 2 weeks, so.
So, I'm not opposed to additional scenarios, but you need a precursor to it. You need to say that we've hired a professional engineering firm, we've worked with them, reviewed a number of possible scenarios. We have talked about this, we've talked about drilling wells, we've talked about buying water other places, we've talked about all of these things. Is the community interested in us continuing to try to spend money, their money, to research additional scenarios?
Yeah.
We, so to say we haven't done it, we haven't looked at certain things, we've looked at a number of things, and we came up with the best 3 out of all the information and all the years that we've been working on this. So,
Yeah.
it has to be a little more, like the chair says, non-political, needs to be needs to have a pre-statement that says all of the work that we've done, all of the years we've been working with the DEP, with the professional engineering firms, and the money we spent. What is the appetite for us to continue to look at whatever other options may be out there,
Yeah.
What
if we did that where you have the page before has the options, scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3 in the blue box? Cause this gives you very clear cut of here's scenario 1, here's scenario 2, here's scenario 3. If we were gonna put scenario 4 right there, obviously it's not gonna be
I would,
bond, anything like that, because we wouldn't know a cost, but it needs to be presented, because you can't really put it, cause I
I-
think if you put it under the next page, research, investigate additional option scenarios, and we put a whole paragraph after it, is
Yeah,
that
but-
kind of, or is that where you would want it?
I don't want it on the 1, 2, 3 page.
Okay.
These are proven, they've had pilot studies, we know what we're gonna do
Okay.
here. I don't wanna put a hypothetical
Yeah.
on a known page.
So what if we took it,
And we have, we've sat down, we've had the discussions with the engineers.
Yeah.
They have said that they don't recommend us going these ways, so we have not. And if the public wants to spend more money, somehow,
Okay.
we can research anything to death, the town's really good at doing it.
But like, what if we had some, I'm just jotting this down real quick, Lunenburg Water might have spent $750,000 on pilot studies and research to solve these PFAS problems. We feel, the
Yeah.
board, feel that these are the best financial and responsible solutions for the way forward. Do you, the public, want to spend more money and explore additional options, like a checkbox or
Yes
something
or
to
no?
that? Like, something along that lines.
Yeah.
This is what we have today, do you want to continue to try to find more other things, and it will incur a cost?
Mhm.
This is what we have today, this is what the survey is going out, and I think something like that would give the option if the public wanted to explore, keep going, okay?
Keep going.
In something along that line.
alright, I can work
Okay.
with Nicole on figuring out where to put that and where to, yeah. Okay. Alright,
I'll hold hold public comment to the end for the people who are interested in talking about this. Do we have anything else we would like to add to this? Amongst the board?
No, I appreciate all the work that, you know, between the residents and Nicole and Christie and Fran that they're putting into this. I know what you're saying, John, everything's still gonna be there even if we do this, but maybe it'll open us up, maybe we'll find out something that we aren't aware of.
Are these gonna come back, I doubt, with anybody's names on them?
Yes, that's.
Yes.
They are.
Well, they have to put it in because there's only gonna be one survey per home. So yes, they are gonna have to put their address in because we can't have.
The reason I ask that is then if whatever the problem is, we can go through each one of them and
Find
find out.
it, the
where
area, yeah,
the
this
area
area.
is.
See if it's
Yeah.
geographical.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I talked about that as well.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you said the hardness is kind of blended right now. I'm sure it isn't for the people on Reservoir
same
Road.
thing.
I'm sure that.
Full hardness.
Yeah.
If you're up here,
I've heard that.
not a lot of pressure. If you're down here, you're like,
Yeah.
it's awesome. All right, moving on, Commissioner, Superintendent Clerk, Treasurer additions, what do we got?
I got nothing.
All right. You got anything, Kristen?
No.
All right.
I drove down Pleasant Street the other day and didn't go,
Good job.
He
They just,
saved me.
yeah?
I don't know, I got bumpy or whatever it is, and yellow light came up on the top,
Yep.
oh,
and everything was, I couldn't do anything, it was just sitting in dead mode or whatever. So he pops in, open and close the door, I'm like, okay, so I did, boom, and back going, I'm like,
There you
that was
go.
it, so.
All you gotta do. Yeah, if you hit a bump too much with it, that door.
But we
latches on it.
got better on the second half. First half was learning curve, second half we got better at it.
I normally go down that hill anyway, so that's the second half, so that's a real good half. But no, good job on that.
Mr. Esposito?
Nope, I'm done.
Well, not yet. All right.
No,
Public comment. Okey dokey, we're gonna move.
Oh.
I have a few comments, so.
Oh.
What were you guys waiting on?
yeah, he was about ready to adjourn.
Yeah, so,
Can you just state your name just for?
oh, I'm sorry, Bill Emke, 445 Townsend Harbor Road. The Keating Lancaster option, I heard two things. I heard the pilot study had to be done, a $250,000 kind of thing I heard thrown out. And I also heard that the engineer said it's not a good idea. I'm interested in what the engineer said, that why it's not a good idea, because that's the part I'm missing.
Well, it was just because of two different types of.
So
wall.
it's
So-
about money and doing a pilot study.
Right, so you
No,
have to,
no.
well, no, it was Lancaster Ave need iron and manganese removal. And, which is a whole different process from what the Keating well would need. So you're gonna have to do a whole treatment plant for the iron and manganese and then do the PFAS. So they do all both. Mostly, the only one in Lancaster Ave doesn't really need PFAS, well, number 4, but, so that was the thing, it didn't make
But
sense.
you have to do that in any case. You can treat PFAS, you can treat iron and manganese, right? So does it make, that's a question on state.
Well, it's a whole two separate, different processes you need to do. But I
But
mean,
if-
you could do it, yes, you could do it.
Well, you have to do it. I don't want to put words in it, but you have to treat it. So whether it's Hickory Hills and Lancaster or Lancaster and Keating, you have to do that.
We're treating iron.
So that's a common denominator.
Yes.
True.
Okay. So it's really about the money, doing another pilot study.
No, there's a lot of other little
Okay,
things too.
Well, that's what I'm kind of interested, because I
So
really want to know.
This has come up a
Yeah.
couple of times, and what I'm requesting, is maybe even jot a note down this. I would like to ask this very specific question to Ty and Bond.
That'd be perfect.
And get maybe even a written response as to this scenario. I feel like we haven't come up with the right verbiage to
I think
push
this is
back on
perfect.
this,
Then
okay?
they can answer is
So,
better.
Bill, I'm gonna do
Yep.
that and get hopefully an answer from the engineer on this, because I know you've kind of asked it before, and hopefully we can get a more accurate description.
Yeah, I just need, I just
Yep.
like to know why. So
Understood.
far I've heard money.
Okay.
I think money's important.
Okay.
But what I did to find out which one to me makes sense, Hickory Hills, Lancaster, Lancaster, Keatings. My first reaction was, Keatings is the workhorse, I mean, Keatings is, I mean, all you need is Keatings, right? I mean, it's got capacity to handle all of our needs. So my knee jerk was, gee, don't get rid of Keatings. And I kind of compared it to Tom Brady in his prime. He kind of gets a hangnail or something. So Belichick says, I'm trading them and gonna get 2 second-string quarterbacks. So that doesn't work. So metaphors don't work, I understand that, but that's
They
kind
work.
of, so my head was with Keatings. So I went back and I looked at all the data that was reported in DEP and all the contaminants for the different wells, just looking at that to see if it made any sense. And in fact, if you look at PFAS, and then here's exactly what I did. I looked at because you had a maximum in your chart, so let me look at the maximum report. So I looked at all the raw data, all the finished data, finished water data, and I looked at the highest number. So I picked that highest number, and I did it for, excuse me, I did it for Keating, did it for Hickory Hills, and because it was reported for blended water, so I only looked at the blended water, okay? And if you look at all of the contaminants, PFAS for Lancaster and Hickory Hills was 2.5 times higher. I think we know that because Hickory Hills has a very high PFAS number. Manganese was 10 times higher with the Hickory Hills Lancaster. I have dissolved milligrams per liter. I'm sorry, what I also did is I assumed 50-50 on the Lancaster. 50% Lancaster, 50% Hickory Hills, 50% Lancaster, 50% Keating. So that was got to do something, so I used that as the average. And I averaged, so then I averaged the highest numbers. So that was, so manganese was 10 times higher for Hickory Hills and Lancaster. Iron you mentioned, 1.98 versus 0.062. 1.98 was Lancaster plus Hickory Hills. The iron content is 20 times? Almost 30 times higher.
I'm not sure the data, the recent data, because the wells in Lancaster Ave, I don't know if it's the water table, but the iron and manganese have dropped significantly.
Well, I love, I'm sorry, go ahead.
In the past, it was much higher, so we're actually on more frequent iron and manganese. Manganese is the key one.
Yeah.
That's the one, because we were at, the max we allowed to have is 0.3. And we had some instances where we were 0.25, 0.28, so we were right there. So that's why it was a few years ago when I don't know why, the iron and manganese started to taper off.
The blended just passed. We just got those numbers in today. The iron and manganese numbers from the blends and the raw water and everything from Lancaster. One of the blends passed, so
Yeah.
manganese, so it's not as high as.
I used all the numbers.
Yeah.
Simple. So my point is that for all those 3 contaminants, the Hickory Hills plus Lancaster blended with a 50-50 mix, much higher than the Lancaster and Keating. Then on cost, it was a $40 million capital cost on your chart. And I assume a big part of that was putting in a new line. And on Google Maps, it was shorter distance from Keating to Lancaster.
That was
So-
4 miles, I believe, and 6 miles, I think, was
Yeah,
Hickory
so it's
Hills.
50% higher, so I assume
But
that.
we have another route that we're
Researching.
Yeah, it's much cheaper in cross-country. So we have
I just only looked at distance, and also we have a well in Lancaster that's running. I don't know what's involved with firing up Hickory Hills or not. So I assume that it's not gonna be any higher than $40 million. In fact, if the distance is a direct comparison to it, it'd be less. If there are other issues I don't know about. Operating maintenance costs, well, Hickory Hills is a lot higher. In fact, in your chart, I think it was like $100,000 or $150,000 more. I assume because of the PFAS, and maybe also the manganese and iron too, I don't know.
So just to maybe clarify a wee bit on sometimes the PFAS, the actual number gets people, it's not an accurate thing to say that the higher the PFAS, the higher the cost is to treat it. In other words, if it has a PFAS, I'm making up numbers here, of 15 versus 30, that doesn't mean it's twice as expensive to treat the PFAS. Is it a little bit more money? I mean,
Yes, but it's not a linear equation. In
Yeah,
other words,
it's not-
it's got a high PFAS, we shouldn't be, it's almost the same amount of money to treat.
I think I heard your guy that, I don't know what his name is at the time, Bonds.
Lou.
Yeah.
Lou. I heard him say that it's gonna be a higher cost to remove PFAS, and that's for Hickory Hills. It's probably not linear, I assume it's not linear.
Right.
But it's gonna be higher cost, and that's what I assume that number was in your chart for operating and maintenance, annual operating and maintenance. So just, you don't have, because you're gonna save I think it was $150,000. I don't have.
Yeah,
right here.
operating was 275K at the Hickory Hills Lancaster Ave,
Yeah.
and Keating's only was 150.
So, what is that, 100 quarter? Yeah, 120. Yeah, so, right there, if that holds true, if they do review this option, if that holds true, you know, your return on investment, it'll pay off pretty quickly, just on that parameter.
But you're talking, scenario 2 is Keating well treatment plant only, right?
No, I'm talking about I'm comparing Hickory Hills and Lancaster to Lancaster and Keating,
Okay.
okay?
But in that 150,000, you can't say that, you can't compare the 275 to 150, because that 150 is only treating PFAS. If you did Lancaster to Keating, you would still have to
No.
include an operating budget of removing the iron and manganese.
Correct.
Yeah, which is
So-
more, which would be more for the
So your
Hickory
150 is
Hills.
gonna be closer to the 275 a year, because you're removing iron and manganese, but then you're including a whole nother plan
I
to
guess I'm
remove the
missing-
iron and manganese first.
I'm missing a point. You have to remove iron and manganese no matter where you put it. Or am I missing something?
No, not.
But,
Okay,
but your
so-
150 number that you're looking at in scenario 2 doesn't include anything about removing iron and manganese.
So it doesn't include in my scenario then either.
But you were
Yes,
just
yes, you
talking
did,
about
because you're
comparing
talking about-
275 and 150, you were saying that your operating budget would be way less if
You're
it ran from
talking about
Lancaster
bringing
to
the
Keating's.
Lancaster and Keating wells together.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So that 150K that you see there is Keating's well only. There is no iron or
No,
manganese issue.
I was looking at Lancaster.
He's
only.
looking at the foam head.
If you add Hickory Hills to Lancaster,
Yep.
the operating maintenance cost goes up to that higher number.
275,
Yeah.
okay.
So if you took Lancaster,
And if you took
Keating's.
Lancaster and Keating's, I'm assuming, based on what your engineer was saying, because the PFAS level would be a lot higher, 2.5 times higher, or 2, whatever, that higher operating cost is associated with the PFAS, primarily with the PFAS, but maybe also, yeah, I might even throw the word manganese out.
Well, so right now.
that's an important part,
Yeah,
if you're
so
trying
the-
to compare things.
Mr. Chair, we are talking about a hypothetical.
Yeah.
We aren't talking about something that's been studied.
I-
Well,
I-
that's
I
what-
understand.
And I have a hard time trying to put numbers on something and stick them
Right.
because it has not been studied.
To move things along, I'd love to talk to you offline about this if you want, just to compare the numbers, if that's where you're going here.
That's why I asked you, what do they study?
Well, they'd have to do all of that.
Well-
All of the things that you're grabbing numbers and thinking of, that has to go through a pilot study for them to then come up with the actual numbers as to what it would
For
be.
that, I agree, the very last number, the operating costs, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right, I'm just saying, because it's higher with Hickory Hills, it increased the annual, I'm assuming that it will also be higher.
But it hasn't been
Okay.
studied, so to make an assumption on something that hasn't
Right.
been proven, it's
Yeah,
hard,
no,
and
I agree.
that's where we'd have to get into.
I agree with that.
How much more do we wanna continue to study this, and based on the answer that we get from Ty and Bond on, what were their concerns about why going that route wasn't necessarily a good option for us, so.
Yeah, I'm basically, just on what Lou said about it costs more money if you have higher PFAS, that's
Yep.
all, so I'm assuming that's gonna correlate. Then redundancy, so again, I'm looking at the two options from like maybe 30,000 feet, maybe not right at 5,000 feet or wherever you wanna be, but redundancy, if you did Hickory Hills and Lancaster, if you just look at those two as your sources, you don't have a redundant system, because you can't have one without the other.
We've never looked at that.
we've always said that every source is gonna need to be treated in order to have an adequate system for the
Well,
future.
No,
But
no,
hold
I'm
on.
saying
Sorry,
redundancy,
no, no.
I'm not talking
No, and that's
about.
what
You just said, so you just said, just to make sure I understood this, that if we had Hickory Hills and Lancaster together, that we wouldn't have redundancy.
If one went down,
That's not true. Because if we put the treatment plan as planned at Lancaster Ave, if Lancaster wells for some reason go down, you still have Hickory pumping to that, and we still have water, vice
yeah,
versa.
but redundancy means volume, I'm talking about volume, capacity.
Yeah.
And we removed the single solution of Hickory Hills and the single solution of Lancaster, because in your footnote, or not yours, whoever wrote it, it said one of these is not enough to supply the average, or the maximum daily amount. So one source by itself, your words, not mine.
No, I understand
Yeah.
what you're saying. Lancaster Ave by itself would be pushing the limits of what this town can run on, especially on a past couple of days.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
So that's why I say it's not redundant, you don't have a redundant system.
But we have, if that was the case, you'd have Hickory Hills also.
When I say redundancy, one plant goes down, one site goes down, you have to rely on the other one.
Okay.
So the two sites, the two well sites, that's the redundancy I'm talking about. This dies, this gotta pick
Okay.
it up. So in that context, it's not redundant. I mean, you have storage tanks and all that, but.
No, I mean, you're right.
Whereas if you had Hickory Hills, sorry, if you had Lancaster and you had Keating, at least you could have Lancaster go down, right?
Well, sorry,
So
it's
it's
the
the
same,
same-
sorry, it's the
it's the
same
same
scenario.
Same thing.
So,
Keating goes, I just thought.
right, so in that case, what you're talking about is Lancaster and Keatings. Now Keatings goes down, and we're solely on Lancaster, right?
Right,
It's
same scenario.
It's the same scenario as this one over here.
But it's a 50% cut, it's partial cut. Lancaster goes down, you've got Keating, which could supply all the water for the town.
Okay,
So that is full, you have full redundancy.
so we
if
could do it the other
Lancaster
way
goes
also.
down.
If-
No, you have either Hickory Hills,
But if it was Lancaster and Hickory, and Lancaster went down, Hickory could supply the town.
So
It
just,
doesn't-
just a little note, you can over pump by 50%. So we don't usually put it in there, so Hickory Hills can pump 500, you legally can pump 750.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
continuously, but I mean, if something came up as an emergency, like Lancaster Ave, you can actually pump 1 million gallons a day, but by permit, it can't, you know,
Right.
so.
Well, I don't, yeah, I think,
Oh,
anyway.
everything, that's emergent situations.
Right.
Oh, yeah, and if you did it, that's the whole key thing, it's only 1 or
Temporary.
2 days, and
Yeah,
then they're out of water.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make a point on that, I don't know whether it's getting across or you just don't agree with me on the redundancy thing.
I don't
understand maybe your,
So you have Hickory Hills and Lancaster, both of these are running.
Okay.
One of them, Hickory Hills goes down.
yep,
Lancaster by itself can't handle the load,
okay,
okay?
Yep.
Same thing, Lancaster goes down, Hickory Hills by itself can't handle the load.
Right.
So that's what I'm talking about redundancy. Just like last year we were talking about what if Keating goes down, we talked a lot about redundancy last year, remember? Now, if you had Lancaster and Keating's goes down, you got the same problem as you had with the other. However,
Any three.
no.
If
how-
you're dealing with any three and one goes down, you're.
No, only dealing, wrong, the scenario is only two wells. So the other one was Lancaster and Keating's. In this case, if Lancaster goes down, you have full redundancy. You can supply the town all the water at once. That's what I'm talking about.
Let's hope we don't run into that problem.
no, and we all hope
Yeah.
that, but I'm with you, Bill, on like,
I
you know,
remember last
No, I
year, all this
understand.
discussion about redundancy, it was the number one thing, I said, oh boy, how about redundancy this year? So that's why, yeah.
See, the
We're
thing-
gonna continue to have increased usage, which is gonna continue to need for more redundancies. Do you disagree?
Yeah, I mean, you can't have too much. I mean,
So
unless it costs too
you're
much.
saying that you don't see an increase in water usage?
No, it's sure. And
Okay.
and in fact,
So then if there's going to be an increase in water usage, there's gonna be an increased need for additional redundancy.
yes, enough, right.
So that's where my comment comes in, that
I look at the future of the Lunenburg Water District, and my thought is that every source we have should be online and treated to the best of our ability to give the cleanest water to the residents. Because we're going to need more than just any one of the two sites, we are going to need a third site. And we can magically find one somewhere in town. We've continued to I've been here for I don't know how many years, and Fran is always looking for additional sites. But then we're gonna run into the same issue, that it's gonna be additional sites that are probably gonna need to be treated.
I don't think what we're discussing here on the two options, has anything to do with the third site. The third site will be the third site if you have one or not. I mean, I don't think what we're talking about now, I don't think you're talking about a third site in any of this. So whether it's Lancaster, Hickory Hills, Lancaster, Keating, what you're saying is still true.
I'm still
Doesn't make
looking
any
at,
difference.
I'm still looking at 3 sites.
Yeah. Well, then this is the wrong survey.
Right, he's talking down
Down
the
the
road.
road, I understand that, yeah,
Yeah.
I understand that, eventually, yeah, I understand that, okay.
Yeah.
In fact, because of increased capacity, the Lancaster Keatings has a better opportunity to handle increased capacity in the town than Lancaster Hickory Hills. Keating's just an animal, it's just it's a terrific well. No, so if you look into future proofing, that's the way to go, and also in future proofing, if these PFAS levels have to go down even further, you want to treat the ones that has the lowest PFAS, not the highest one. So that might be, looking down the road, that might be another issue.
That I don't necessarily agree with.
Well, I don't know, if it goes down to lower numbers, I mean, will it?
Treating PFAS is treating PFAS, whether it's 4 or 20, it's pretty much the same process. So with that argument, I appreciate you bringing it up, but I don't agree with it. We're gonna move on
Okay,
from
yeah.
comments. Dave or Mr.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's fine, it's fine. I'll try to be very brief. I don't think we should spend.
Who are you?
Yeah, my name. I don't think.
Dave
Dave
Rogers.
Rogers.
I mean, just for the camera. I mean, yeah.
I don't think we should spend anything until the federal government and the state government come and tell us what the scenario is going to be.
I don't disagree with you.
Well, that-
Because
I already got-
otherwise, we will be going, we'll be shooting blanks.
We'll be
Anyway,
broke by the time they do that.
Aren't they already telling us?
exactly, and with our luck, we're going down one road, and they in their infinite wisdom, it wouldn't pass muster. So they have got to come through and say, this is what we need to do after searching and researching all of the scenarios. Now, the Triple M and DuPont litigation has not been settled. And when they do settle it, there's not gonna be anywhere near enough money to do any substantive correction. Because if there are 351 cities and towns in Lunenburg that have this Massachusetts have this problem at various degrees. Can you imagine what is left for the whole United States? It's unbelievable. So we don't know that. So the state and the federal government have to come through and come up with a bunch of rules and regulations and parameters that can be met or not met. And then, how do you finance it? Well, we can't finance it. There's no way in hell you can finance it. And so there'll have to be a mechanism that will take care of that. So this whole scenario, my opinion, is in such a flux that you know, we can talk till the cows come home, but we're not gonna get anywhere because we don't have, you know, standard information that we can say is correct. That's my take.
I'm gonna put something into that. The price of these things, these treatment plants, are way the hell too high.
Sure.
These guys, these contractors are making themselves so much money on these treatment plants. They know they gotta be built, and they know that the towns are gonna cough up with the money, and you're gonna cough it up sooner or later, and they're gonna take it from you. You mean to tell me it costs $30 million to build a treatment plant? I mean, not a big sewage treatment plant, a water treatment plant with a few cylinders with organic material in it and blah, 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 blah. It's just ridiculous. I mean, you can build a Brooklyn Bridge now for $30 million.
So that's the other part of it. Not only is there, you know, you gotta figure out what the standards are, but also the ongoing maintenance. So there's a
But the
whole
government's
bunch of
gotta step in and put their thumb on this stuff. It's just, like these engineers, $300,000 or $400,000 to engineer a water line,
Yeah.
you know?
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you. Now, one other thing. Just kidding.
Do we have any other comments?
Yes, thank you. Andy Starbasky, with the Green Court. Want to make a couple comments. I'm surprised. I agree with Ms. Esposito on this, on the poll and survey question. You're asking a lot of information on things you're really not going to go down the road for on smell and hardness. So you're just going to be bringing a lot of noise to the table that's going to have to be discussed.
I agree with
Because I agree with you, friend. This is about PFAS.
you, right?
And you've put a lot of other stuff, and it's like, oh, this is nice to know. But it's about PFAS, and PFAS is set by the state and feds. So, do they know about it? Do they care about it? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because I agree with Mr. Rogers that
This is being recorded, right?
we haven't gotten anything from the Massachusetts DEP, because they're waiting on the federal lawsuit about exactly what we were talking about. The costs of this are astronomical, and it's an unfunded mandate, which I believe
Yeah.
you said.
Yeah.
And so, I'm glad we're hearing all of that, because I agree with it. My only question was, and I'm only asking it for myself, is right now we have Keating, we have Lancaster. The options was Keating, just treated for PFAS, Keating with water softener, which went through the roof. Why don't we have the option of what we have exactly today? Let's do Lancaster for PFAS and Keating for PFAS, and not run the pipe between them. Why isn't that an option? We've got the pilot studies for it, we've got the numbers for it. Why isn't that an option?
So I guess what your real question is why not just do a standalone,
Right.
Lancaster only?
Oh, we presented those
Well,
numbers,
that
that
was
is
one
not.
of, that was one of the options to look at for the scenarios, and the engineers, when I spoke to, the wells in Lancaster have so limited capacity. There's only one well number 5, which I think I showed you the readings. That's the only well that can run continuously. The other ones fall off, so the engineers didn't feel it was worth spending $20-some million for not a full.
We just ran Lancaster for 5 or 6 months on its own, and it was fine.
Winter,
Winter.
winter time.
You couldn't do that.
You couldn't do it in July.
No, we couldn't, but this is what we have today. We have the Hart Keating well, and we have Lancaster. We've got the study, and originally, we were looking at, we're gonna build a treatment facility at Keating, we're gonna build a treatment facility at Lancaster. That's no longer on the table. And I would think it is a viable option, because
It
we're
is.
talking so much money,
Yeah, I agree.
so much money. People need to know, well, wait a second, what is it gonna cost us just for Keating, and knowing the risks. I think the water users need to know that and make a decision. That's not up for you guys to decide, or maybe it is, but no, it isn't, because we all have to vote. When we're talking 50, 60, $70 million, I think those options should be presented to the public.
Doesn't that knock off the redundancy?
Well, we've had this issue, we've talked about it ad nauseum last year.
Well,
We've got redundancy today. It meets the state standards.
You imagine
And
what
so that was in the
uproar
poll
and-
question, and you got feedback on that was, well, we do have redundancy today.
Yeah.
Do you want more redundancy? And if so, what are you willing to pay for it? And that was the feedback in that poll. You know, it's the same thing with water hardness. It's like, oh, we have a solution here where we treat it. It's like, it's not a standard by the state, nobody treats it, or states and municipalities don't treat it. And most people, if they have a hardness problem, they'll put a system in their house.
Yeah,
That's
that's
how
true.
it gets handled, and we're trying to find the most economical solution, because it's not just PFAS, we're looking at property taxes, utility bills, everything. And you're gonna come to 2,500 water user accounts and
Yeah.
say,
Yeah. So, but that was, the engineers did look at that.
Right.
Lancaster, they didn't feel it was worth spending, I don't remember the number, $20 million or 25, whatever it was, for Lancaster to have the limited capacity. That was, so they did.
I
look
think
at
the
it.
people should vote on that, or at least get input on it, because it is an option.
I agree, it is an option.
Can you imagine what the uproar would be in this town if one of them wells went down and they didn't have the water they wanted?
Well, that would be exactly the case if it
Who do you
happened.
think they're gonna blame for that? They're gonna blame us. You guys didn't do what you were supposed to do.
We can do
Oh,
what you
tried.
can do, we do our best.
Yeah, we do our best, but,
Any other public
no, I
comment?
agree with you. I understand your
If it's an
situation.
emergency, how long of
Yeah.
an emergency would it
Yeah.
be? And we would only have to supply the water for the additional usage, and you guys would go to your emergency plan. You're not swimming, you're not doing swimming pools, you're not filling tanker trucks. I mean, so if there is an emergency, it may last for a couple days, maybe a couple weeks. Yeah, the place could blow up with terrorists, as you said before.
Iran could send us over a nuclear missile.
Lunenburg is on their top 5, I got it.
Probably be the best place to put it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
To keep the peace among everybody, especially with some of the experts we have here, okay? Why don't we take enough time before we put the survey out?
Oh, absolutely. This is
Let's
not
take
a,
our time,
Yeah.
let's do it right,
this is
so
not.
the expert here can get all squared away.
This is, right,
I do have a question for this young man.
that's
Thank you
not
so
part of,
much.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
I appreciate
That's
that,
not
by
public
the way.
comment.
That's not public
That's not
comment?
public, you two
Okay.
wanna go outside and
I'll
talk,
talk to
you
him
have it out.
afterwards then, okay?
It was the young man
Yeah.
part I liked.
Yeah.
I turned around too.
Well, I have to say one thing from Mr. Emke, you come up with some viable
You're a thinker,
situations and
no
stuff.
doubt
you know.
about it.
You know, and you spend the time at home doing what you have to do to come in
Not
here and
doing
tell
it
us
alone.
what we wanna know, or what we should know.
Thank you. That's
You're up, John.
I'm up,
Yep.
adjourned.
Motion to.
A motion for adjourn. Well, I wanted to make it short and sweet. I didn't know we were at the end of the meeting.
So moved.
Good.